5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. The only thing we have to fear is fear.
Mile 18.
This is Endurance Nation.
Hey there, welcome to the Endurance Nation podcast. My name is Patrick McCran and I'll be your host. Every week I break down a different topic on endurance sports, training, racing, strategy, using Endurance Nation's 4 key values of consistency, community, camaraderie, and competition. Being an endurance athlete is not easy. You're juggling many different things, including time, resources, money, travel, work, life. It gets stressful at times, but what we do inside Endurance Nation is break things down to their basic building blocks. Make sure that you can put them into practice, whether you're training or racing, to make you a fitter, faster, and smarter athlete. We've been doing this since 2007 and helped thousands of athletes just like you reach their own personal best and the finish line that they've been chasing for a very long time. We look forward to helping you here on this podcast, but you can also follow us online at endurancenation.us, or if you're looking for a specific topic, just Google Endurance Nation and the topic. I'm sure we've got something. Otherwise, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Endurance Nation.
All right, we're already laughing. We haven't even started, we're already laughing. Hey everyone, welcome to another race podcast / video interview. This is a chance for us to reconnect with your teammates who are out there in the wide world doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And Julia, our guest today, fills that bucket. She loves doing crazy stuff with a big old smile on her face. And so Julia, welcome to the pod.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for hitting the pause button at work. I'm glad that you were able to use Endurance Nation as an excuse. And
yes.
I'm not quite sure what trial you signed me up for, but I'm in just so we get this time together. I'm willing to sacrifice my body for science, for sure.
Woohoo!
Woohoo, woohoo, woohoo. I was just saying before we hit the record button how people's attention span only lasts for 5 minutes. So the pressure's on. We've got to just go out big like a bike race and drop some alpha on these people. So they stick around, learn more about adventure cycling and all the amazing places you've been on 2 wheels and what your goals are. Go ahead and hit us with that one crazy story that you tell normal people about you on a bike, like the time that you rode over a panther or jumped over an 18-wheeler or rescued a busload of nuns from a mud pile. What's your go-to epic story in the off-road adventure category?
So that's actually a good question. I don't know if I have just a smattering of tiny stories, but I'll tell you that I roped my husband on a bike, essentially.
Whoa.
Okay. So yeah, we met when I hit a rabbit on my triathlon bike 12, 13, however many years ago. So I hit a rabbit. I said, oops, I didn't crash. Amazingly. It was amazing. It was an early morning and it's dewy, and rabbits are so apologizing to all the animal lovers, but they're so dumb. There was bushes on one side and an open cliff on the other, and the rabbit just ran from the bush into the fence with the cliff. And that's where he was going, and that's when I hit him. So when I went in to have my bicycle examined, because even though I didn't crash, I hit the rabbit. So he looked it over and told me all about what he was looking for, and I thought that was really impressive because instead of just saying, okay, I'm going to go take care of it, he was imparting information. So then I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm interested. And so then to come full circle for that, we did one of the most amazing races I would say I've ever done in my life on a gravel bike is in Iceland. And it's called the Rift. It's 120-ish miles, basically around a volcano in Iceland. Mm-hmm. And we actually had to do it twice. Because the first time my then boyfriend took a rock to his frame at mile 20, it broke his frame. He couldn't finish. So he had to get revenge. That was in 2019. He didn't get to finish. He had to get revenge. COVID hit. couple years go by. We finally go back to do it. We both finish. And then when I cross the finish line, that's when he proposed.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yep.
At the makeup race. Okay.
Yes,
All
exactly.
right.
At the revenge race in Iceland. But that race, even still, because I got to do it twice. And even still, both times it was like, it was amazing. And it was hard and it was gorgeous. And it was like, wow, so much stuff just crammed into one, I don't know, 10 or 12-hour day, whatever it was.
My God. I can't imagine. Okay, just to know, like your then fiance, did he carry the ring on the course?
No, this is an even funnier story.
Oh,
What he did.
yes. Best first 5 minutes of a podcast ever. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I love this man to death, but you know what he did? He forgot the ring.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he raced. It was my second time. It was actually a harder race for me. I don't know. I think you were actually telling me when we were debriefing, I probably started too fast, probably because I had ambitions the second time. And so I was a little slower. It was a little colder. It was a little rainier. So there was actually at least 2, if not 3 hours separating when he finished and when I finished. So when he was trying to go really fast because he had to find another ring in this little teeny tiny town. There was like one gas station, one tourist like shop, and he had to try to find me a ring in the tourist shop in the 3 hours between when he finished and I was supposed to finish. So he was able to find me a ring. So now I wear 2 rings. I wear the ring that he gave me in Iceland that he found at this little souvenir shop. And then when I came home, I got the other ring.
That's so funny because we all know as racers that like in the lead up to the race, you're like together. There's no, hey, honey, I'll be back in 2 hours. You just do a bunch of stuff. Like everyone's freaking out. You're stressing. You're packing, repacking, looking, pumping, deflating, tightening, taping. So there was no time.
Yeah.
There was no time. Wow. I'd be curious to know what his intensity factor was for that ride. How hard he was working. Because he probably didn't know where you were. Like, you didn't know.
Yeah, we have the Garmin tracker things, but I can't remember. I don't think they were really working in Iceland, the live track stuff. I think they were pretty sketch, so I don't think he really knew. So he's probably just go, because he'd already asked my parents and stuff, so they knew what was going to happen. So there was no backing out.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's crazy. I love it. Okay, that was a kick-ass way to start this podcast. Like we're crushing. Like some great stories right there for sure. That to me is part of the thing. People don't have good stories. You need good stories. And when you're an athlete and when you're doing your life and then you're doing like this adventure stuff, you have people in both sides and you've got this sort of back and forth and all sorts of other, I don't know, like it just to me makes for more excitement. Perhaps maybe a little too much for your husband.
Totally.
Day, but still, that's fantastic. I love that story. So, well, most people move off of the road and into off-road because they want some kind of an adventure. Sounds like you were already having adventures. But how many years were you like in the road tri space before you decided to head to the dirt? Like, what is that like?
That's a great question. Actually, it's probably a long time. I know I switched into dirt probably around 2018, and I got really into the road Ironman stuff when I joined Endurance Nation. And when did I join? Like 2000 and I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
But it was a long time ago.
Yeah. I'd have to go back and take a look at our archives.
Yeah.
Probably close to equal.
Yeah, I want to say, I don't know, 2007, 2009, 2008, something like that. Anyway, so I was doing the Ironmans for a really long time. And then I switched to dirt here, and here meaning Northern California, San Francisco area. I felt like I loved the Ironmans. Kona was my dream, but I knew that like realistically in terms of time that I could spend training for life and stuff like that, Kona was probably not really a realistic expectation. But I did qualify for the Worlds with the half. And so I went to South Africa, and then that's a cherry on top. That's a good check the box amazing life thing.
Yeah.
And here in San Francisco, there's so much cool outdoor stuff that I had never gotten to appreciate when I was in Southern California, because that's where I pretty much grew up, spent all my time. Southern California has its own brand of beauty, but I love the trees up here and the off-roading. There's just so much of it. Yeah. So I wanted to really explore that. And since it's so easy, all I have to do is just go ride my little bike over the Golden Gate Bridge, and I'm in Marin, and there's all kinds of trails and all different ways to like tack them together. And you can have all these different routes that are short or long, but always hard. So it's right up my alley, even though my skills, I still need to keep building them.
Yeah, that's the best part, I think, about the off-road stuff is it's a different, like you mentioned first, you talk about the environment. Most people don't, when they talk about cycling, they're just like the road. They don't think about what's around the road. Right? They don't really notice because you're just focused on how good is the road? Is the road flat? Is it up? Is it straight? Is it smooth? Is it bumpy? Is it curvy? Is it crowded? Like all these words, like we have as triathletes, we have Eskimos with words for snow. We have 9 million words for roads. You know what I mean? But like for the stuff off the road, we're like thing. Something fell across the road, my beautiful flat paved road that's at 3%. You know the one that has the turn with the 6-inch shoulder. Yeah, of course, we all like something. I don't know what it was. But when you switch to off-road, all of a sudden it's, whoa, there's this whole space out there where you're just like, this is incredible that I just did not even get into. So for me, I think that's my favorite part about being outside is the adventure. And you are definitely in the mecca of places to be up there.
Yeah.
It's just great stuff.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. So many times I'm like, I can't believe I just get to ride here. And I have again, genius husband got me this 360-degree GoPro camera. And I stuck it on my head and I did a couple of my rides. And there was stuff that I had never seen before because I can see this much of my trail and it's beautiful, but even still for some of the hard stuff, I'm watching my line. And then when I could go back and look, I was like, holy, that gorgeous, amazing meadow over there, or this trees. It's just so cool.
Like in the movies where you're like, look out, the bad guy's behind the sofa, and you're like the character in the movie's like la-di-da-di-da. You're just like over there behind you. But it's the bear was like, next time somebody rolls through here, I'm biting their head off. Like I'm all waving at people. This one didn't even wave back at me. Well, you're doing so. You are like a full-time professional. Like you often tune in as you are now from work. How do you balance that? Like how do you find a way to be like fit enough to do the stuff that you want to do on the weekends, but also be like, I'm busy? What does it look like for you?
That's a great question. And it alternates between, oh my God, it is hard, to it's not so bad. Because I think like when I've got a race, I'm excited about it. And that's where I want to spend like my weekend mornings. And luckily I'm able to work from home, which affords some, but not a lot, of like flexibility in terms of when to start. I get up early and then I'll either be on the trainer or I'll go outside and then I can do all that stuff before I get started. But if I get started at 9:07 or even sometimes 9:30 or something like that, like nobody's having a problem with it. So it's thankfully that flexibility to do stuff in the morning is really helpful. And then I think it also helps that like my husband is also, he's a mechanic, so he's on his feet all day. He's on a different level of tired than I am, but it's similar. Like in the mornings, he'll ride, and then on the weekends, on his day off, he wants to ride too. So for us, since we've got that same like excitement about the riding and the stuff that we do, it really makes it easier for us. And I think the way that we have things set up inside Endurance Nation in order to make the most of our time and the effort that we do put out, I think it works out really pretty well.
Okay.
So
Well,
time and
I mean,
effort.
sure, but I think the weekends also help. So there's structure to the week for sure. And then I think there's something like for me, at least on the try side, the weekends were still a lot like work. Like I was trying to do sort of the same approach I was doing during the week of a specific time or effort or whatever. And then outside, I was like, I'm going to do what I did on Tuesday, but for 4 hours instead of just 90 minutes. Woohoo, how exciting. And the off-road stuff for me, but the part I love, even on trails that you've ridden a lot, you just never know what's around the turn or what it's going to be like, or there's just so many other variables that it's such a challenging experience. Like I get back from a 4-hour ride on my gravel bike and I'm just like totally exhausted. Like I've been thinking about it, getting pounded, like decisions, hopping off, fixing stuff, like getting back on. Whereas I'm like, oh my God, like on the tri bike is like the bullet train of training. Like nothing goes wrong. You just go super fast and you're going to be there just about pretty much right on time. Whereas the off-road stuff, it's like, could be 3 hours, could be 6 hours. It's going to be an adventure.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point that sometimes for me it's hard, but it's good because there's certain stretches of road that I say that loosely, basically wide, fire road, whatever, that I'd love to go down. But when I look back at my Strava, the ranges of the times are huge. Because like sometimes if it's dry and there's not stuff on it, you can just like, and then other times if there's mud puddles or if there's big branches and all that sort of stuff, you got to pick your way through and all this sort of stuff. So to that point, the conditions vary a lot throughout the year, and that can impact like how fast or how slow you can be on any one day, for better or for worse. It makes it so that like I really got to let go of that type A triathlete in terms of I'm going to be faster and faster every time. And here you just can't. If you feel good, great. That's pretty much all that you can do on any given day. Because if I start chasing times, some days I'm like, who the heck was that girl? That wasn't me. I don't know how I went that fast, but okay.
Yeah, it is pretty funny though. But I don't know. I still find it's interesting because you do put out. It's just as much work. It's just distributed differently. By adding more fun, it's just different. I'm not quite sure how to explain it. I know you know what I'm talking about. Right. All right, so let's talk about, so in terms of getting better though, like obviously we can't just ride outside all the time. We have jobs, etc. So how have you approached like saying, okay, I'm going to be doing these other races this year. How do you structure your time so that you can say, oh, I am getting, like, how do you define better in your training? With so much of it being like adventure and racing off-road, like aside from, I can do this thing, do you have targets when you're training, or are you just like happy training to connect the weekends, connect Saturdays?
It ebbs and flows. So sometimes there are when I go out and about, there are certain sections that I do all the time. Like I was saying earlier, because they're connectors in between. So those sections that I do all the time, I will sometimes, if I'm feeling strong, I'll be like, all right, let's see how long it takes me to get up. And I'll still try to take a look. And sorry, it's a bit of a combination of the time and how fast I feel going up. So there's a big 5-6 maybe mile section called Railroad Grade, which is the gateway to all the fun stuff in Marin. And that's a good, on a fast day, I'm just under 50 minutes and I'm like, yes. And on a normal day, it could be around an hour or later. And so depending on where I am in my training, I'll hold certain bars for myself. If I'm just getting started, I don't try to hold myself to below my sub 50 time. So that's one of the ways that I keep an eye on it, even though, like we just said, the terrain can change and make any given day, who knows, but loosely within a season, like within the spring, it'll be a certain way, it'll be a certain kind of tacky. So I think that's why I might be faster then. Whereas in the summer, it can be really dry and dusty and sometimes even slippery, maybe. So I do try to use like little common segments to checkpoint. And then in other areas of the rides, I'm just like, wee, and enjoying outside.
Okay, fine. So I agree that like the terrain kind of, or the texture, I should say, that's something that most people don't think about. When they think about riding is the texture.
Yeah.
So to talk about textures, that reminds me of thinking about equipment. So exactly how many bikes do you have? Like, what's your range of equipment as a outdoor enthusiast?
Okay. So I'm married to a bike mechanic. There are a lot of bikes in the garage. There are a
Mm,
lot.
okay.
But I'll say actually I probably own, actually, probably not so bad. I probably own, thinking, I probably own four or five at least. So, because there's gravel bike number one, gravel bike number two, cross bike, road bike. I think that and there may be one or two others in there, but gravel bike number one is my baby, and gravel bike number two is a little bit pseudo, like I can take it on the road and I can take it on the gravel. So I pretty much just do those two bikes, which is pretty amazing for me, actually.
Okay.
Because I think I used to have a road bike, a tri bike, all these other kind of
Mm,
bikes. But I feel like I've narrowed it down to just these two that are really focused on gravel. Although dreaming, because the perfect number of bikes is N plus one, I would love to acquire a mountain bike one of these days, just
okay.
because going exploring, particularly around here, would be
Mm,
really fun. But right now, I think I'm pretty good with my gravel and then my kind of gravel roads. That's two. That's not so bad.
two's not so bad. So then let's go back to the garage real fast. How many total bikes are in the garage if you really just use two of them? If you had to guess, if someone was like, hey, lady, I want to buy your garage. And like, it's got bikes in there. And he's like, I'll give you $5,000 for a bike. How many bikes? You'd come up with a number. What would that number be?
Oh God. I would say we have bikes that are like in the probably up to the teens. So I would guess like 12, 13. Because
Okay.
my husband has a lot of different kind of bikes, and he's got like the project bikes, and he's got a single speed, and he's got a mountain bike. And so I've whittled my collection down, but he's got a ton of them.
Okay.
So yeah, there's
Hmm. Hmm.
plenty. And he's even, oh, and what about this bike? God.
Hmm. I see. Okay. Hmm.
Plenty.
That's okay. It's actually like people say that's, oh, what's all this stuff here? But then, when something goes wrong, he doesn't really have to go anywhere. He's
I'll
taking it from
take
here,
this
put it here.
from that.
And that's
Yeah.
super convenient, right? Like I've got all this wood laying around. My wife's, we got to throw out this wood. Lo and behold, I was working on the deck yesterday and, oh, this piece of wood came in handy. And I was like, can you give me a piece of wood? She's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, this one or this one? I'm like, oh, we like options, don't we? Don't like it when it's in a pile, but now we're using them. So
Exactly.
I
And it's really
respect
funny because I think right now there's actually four of the bikes are in different stages of not being in commission, because in our last race, VWR Canada, which was gnarly, I'll have to, if you guys haven't seen that, I'll show you that video. He did something to the crank arm on his gravel bike, and then his backup gravel bike had a problem with the tube, so that wasn't working. And then I think his single speed that he was using for work has a different, so like four of the bikes are out of commission right now, and he's like, all right, how do I rearrange all the things so we can be up and running? But needless to say, with four bikes out of commission, he still rode to work today on something.
something. He just put it all together.
Yes,
I
something
guess
that's in the garage.
exactly. If he doesn't show up riding to work, people will be worried. Like, hey, you took a bus. You okay?
Yeah.
Not okay?
Wrong.
Not on the bike. What's going on with that?
Did your house
Okay.
burn down? What's wrong?
Exactly. Oh my God, something's really got to be bad. Okay, let's talk about the rest of the city. You've done some epic races. You just did a huge gnarly race, and you're in the great place for year-round racing. You've had quite a few events already, but where are you pointed this season? Where else will the races take you?
That is another good question. So this is the first slightly different sort of season. My A races were the ones that I did in May. And so now I'm trying something new and trying not to be type A. And I think we're going to do Mammoth Tough again, but I think the approach is actually going to be to do the shortest one and then bike, because Mammoth Tough is in Mammoth, California, in September-ish. And last year when we did it, it was one of our last races. We did the long course, and it was hard. They told us that, but I think the combination of the altitude and certain parts of it, I was like, it was hard mentally because you're in this valley and it's gorgeous, but you're biking in the same valley with the same scenery for I felt like 40, 50, 60 miles. I was just like, I don't know if I can do that again, but it's still gorgeous. So we're gonna do the shorter race, and then I think what we want to do is we want to go around and just ride other places and see and do a several day fun riding trip in September versus like another mammoth race.
I love that. I think there's just so much to your point, and I think Robin Sarner was talking about this as well in the team. The races are fun and they're epic. If you take the intensity from an 8 to like a 6, and then you say, let's not put it into this one thing, let's distribute it across like a bunch of days or a place, it actually becomes a lot cooler in terms of like the stuff you could do and the places you could go, and you're not that far away from just connecting, like saying, hey, we do a 7-day trip. Right. Yeah. Or whatever that is, like bikepacking, putting it all together like that. That kind of opens the door for all sorts of stuff. 'Cause like for me, the thing I used to do when I used to drive in a car, right, was like I would see bodies of water and I'm like, I could swim in that. Like those were like, oh, I think I could swim over there. Now that I'm totally into gravel biking, I'm like, I could ride that. I think I could ride that. Like that. I think I just saw a trail over there in those woods. Like I'm like in another state on a highway going 75. Am I looking at my GPS? No. Looking at the road? No. I'm like, I think I saw a trail. Like I'm like looking at my map. Is there a trail over there? Is there a trail over there? Like, meanwhile, it's like cars or them. I think I saw a trail. Like a pin. My watch. Like, what are all these pins on your map? They're not located near any objects of relevance. So I'm like possible trail location. Like possible trail. And so I think, that's just to me is like, ooh, there's all this sort of uncharted stuff. Like I think part of what technology has done for us is placed a map on the world and then put that map in our pocket, and now we can put our rides on that map. And so you could go from point A to point B, and I could just do exactly what you did, even take the same wrong turns that you took. Once you've done it, it's been done, and I'm just following this way. And to me, it's like, the trail stuff just adds so much more adventure. It's still fuzzy. It's not 100% known. I don't know. So I love your idea.
Yeah, there's excitement in that. And so we want to explore that because we've actually both been drawn to the bigger, longer stuff. Because when we went to Iceland, we're like, if we're going to schlep all the way to Iceland, we're going to do the hardest thing possible. Twice. And same thing with BWR. We're like the BWR in Canada. We were like, we're going to go all the way up there. We want to do the hard one. But we got up there and there was so much, like there's a ton of other riding that we could have done. And we met another guy that was camped right beside us. And he was talking about, he did a shorter course. And I just took the week and I've been dinking around on my bike and doing all these other around this area rides. And I'm like, that's a cool idea, because you still accumulate the tired, but at least I don't think, we'll see, it's not that day after bam, you've beaten yourself in the ground over 12 hours. It might be 12 hours, but if it's over 5 days.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I think that's the future, like as we get more adventurous, like as a social group of athletes, to be like, oh, what, like when we say inside the team, do cool stuff with your fitness, it wasn't do the same thing you've always done, just it's different places, but the same thing. Let's know, like, who wants to be the rock star who plays the same 7 songs every night? You want to be like, I can do cool stuff with this thing, this bike, and I'm going to go do it in all sorts of places.
Exactly.
Wow. You've been blazing a trail, like literally, like across the West Coast and more. I'm excited to follow your adventures. For people who don't know, all those awesome videos that we put up with the funny music, those are from Julia. Like those are her rides. I love the little highlights, like that at the start. Like now me at the start, right? Like, or whatever. Like all of that's like super cool. We appreciate the hard work you put into that, because it. I don't know. I finished some of my long rides and I'm like, oh my God. And I don't remember anything. I remember like one bridge or one tricky.
Yeah. And this is how we remember it, is because otherwise it would be the same thing for me. It's like how to capture that experience and those images that I don't think I would ever otherwise remember, because I'm either too tired, or I'm thinking about, okay, quick, at the next rest stop in 5 miles, I got to make sure to like put on sunscreen and on my chain and do all that. So even though and gosh, I got to tell you guys, BWR in Canada was so gorgeous. It was so gorgeous and so
Vancouver,
cool.
where was it?
It was on Vancouver Island. So you did have to take a ferry over, but there's a ton, and so worth it. It was just, it was gorgeous. Totally gorgeous. Yeah. Plug for that race. Totally.
All right. I'll have to check it out. Like, it's BWR always raises the bar for sure. I'm doing the one in Kansas, I think, in October. Like, I had to defer from what I was doing because of my season. So Kansas, not quite as epic as Vancouver Island, although BWR, I'm sure, will BWR.
Yeah. Right. It'll be a BWR thing no matter what. And Kansas,
no matter what,
it's a thing still.
Oh, after seeing some of those pictures of mud from the other week, I'm like, I don't know if I want that kind of mud in my gears.
Yeah.
I need a what?
Yeah, you gotta you have to carry a special thing, a mud sticker, which is really like a broken fender or something. But now carrying like the appropriate accoutrements for digging out mud. Welcome to gravel.
Exactly. Welcome to gravel. Like, I got a thing to take mud out of my chain. Like, meanwhile, in tri mode, it was like my chain is always shiny.
Yes.
Polish it, and it's wonderful and it's perfect. Yeah, exactly. But so much fun. There's just such a whole nother world out there. I want to thank you for leading the charge. Like, you've been one of the early adventure people on the team, and it's been great to see you like explore more and you're not some people talk a lot in the forums, you just do a lot.
I just come back with pictures.
More pictures. It's awesome. And like, you started the whole trend, and people on the team do it still now. I still do it. Just post pictures of your legs. How dirty are those legs at? That's the quality of my weekend, the dirty leg scale, which I love.
Yes. Exactly.
That's what it's all about. Let's see those legs. I hope to earn your respect this weekend. It looks like with the rain in the forecast for me in Minnesota, I will be quite dirty.
I can't wait to see pictures.
So we'll look forward for some fun from that. But in the meantime, on behalf of the team, thank you so much, not just for showing up tonight, but again, just exemplifying the lifestyle. I think this is a great direction for people to point towards and be like, oh, that awesome place on the horizon, that light at the end of the tunnel, isn't just more of this, but like faster and stronger and like more points. It's adventure. It's taking this engine and putting it in new places and challenging yourself in all sorts of ways that don't involve like a watt number or a smaller time number.
Exactly. Yes, thank you for having me. It's great. It really is.
Yay, awesome. Okay, be sure to send me, I'm not going to be able to put this up for a week or two, so be sure to send me some pictures or maybe a link or two of some of those videos, and I'll be sure to include them in the podcast stuff, okay?
I can do that. Cool.
All right, Julia, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, you take care. Have a great night. Don't work too hard.
Okay, I'll see you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
For more information about Endurance Nation, visit us online at endurancenation.us. The provided music is from the Podshow Podsafe Music Network. Check it out at music.podshow.com.